everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. Today is the update for No Pan Left Behind, in which I try and use every shadow that I have in my collection at least once. This year we're doing it very casually. If I want to use a shadow, I use it. If I don't, then I don't. And I definitely also base my possible declutters on this whole project because it gives me an overview of what shadows I've actually used and which ones I didn't, so which ones I should possibly reconsider having in my collection. Also, it could be that I could get a call and then I have to leave to go to my horse because I'm waiting on the vet. There's nothing really major going on. He's okay, sort of, but he needs to get his blood tested today, and they don't give out a time of the appointment. They just say the vet's gonna call within half an hour that they're there. So yeah, that might happen. Last month I did a mid-year declutter. I will link that video for you guys. So things have changed. I still have the palettes on my spreadsheet, but I made the titles red and I've colored the remaining shadows black because I don't have to use those anymore. I don't have them in my collection anymore. So I will show you on the screen what my spreadsheet has been looking like since the beginning of the year. Every month has its own color. Last video I was talking about July and July, which made no sense because it was the June update. I got it mixed up because I was filming it in beginning of July, so there's that. But this month is July. July is a darker blue color. I'm hoping you can see on the screen now, as well as see the palettes that I have decluttered. So it's been mostly Beauty Bay. The Beauty Bay Disney palettes have left my collection. There were some that I had used, some that I had used some shadows, and then there was one that I didn't use at all. Then I also decluttered the Beauty Bay Brights palette. I didn't really say that in the declutter video. There was one shadow that I wanted to dupe, but I've since already moved on from that palette, so it's gone out of my collection. And then I also finally said goodbye to the 1UP palette, which had ABH and Milani as well in there. So those are all gone. So happy about that. It gives me, like, it really lifted a weight off of me, which sounds stupid because they're just eyeshadow palettes, but they really did. So what we have left, I have used 12 shadows this month, which isn't a lot. Like 12 new shadows, I do have to say. I used other shadows that had already been used, but 12 new shadows. This month has just not really been a month in which I've worn a lot of makeup, and especially not very creative or like special. I've just been going back to the same look over and over. I do have to say I did use some shadows, more special shadows, because I went to a festival. How many times am I going to say that on this channel? Like, I know, but it was my holiday and it was so much fun and I want to go again next year. It's just, I've been looking forward to that since we got tickets in January. I just love it so much. So, sorry if you're tired about hearing about my festival that I went to, but it was so much fun. So I did use some Micka Beauty Shop singles for those days. I have them in a palette here together with some Glam Shop and some ColourPop. I only need to use 3, and it's this one right here, Tropical, and then we have Medusa, and this one, what were you called again? Galaxy Oasis. Those are the only 3 that I still need to use out of my Micka Beauty Shop singles. So I got some good use out of some shadows that I brought to the festival. Like the pinky ones, I'm sure I brought this one. It was just a lot of fun to put these on my eyes because these are stunning and perfect for that type of occasion. So 3 left to use, which is fun. Then from my 𝓮𝓂𝓮𝓮 singles, I actually also used 3. And that is because 2 of them are now in my Expand Those pans. Yeah, you have seen that update, I'm pretty sure. And 1 of them is in my Pan Those eyeshadows. So there's 3. I have them in this palette, but there's this one, and that one that I'm working on. So I've used 3 of those, which is good. Then I used 1 shadow out of this palette right here, the Scooby-Doo Creeps and Crawls, because that one is also in my Pan Those eyeshadows. So I've used this one. I talked about the tropical, ooh, that is my phone. Okay, that was the vet. They're gonna be at the stables in half an hour. Okay, I can finish that before. Then there was the tropical palette. I talked about the tropical palette last month. I used 1 extra shadow. Was it that one or was it that one? I don't even remember. There's that. Like I said, I'm not forcing myself to use shadows. I just see what I naturally gravitate towards. And I thought the tropical palette was one that I really liked, but looking at my uses and what I've been using, I don't know, not really sure. But there's that. And then the palette that had the most shadows in that I've used, like new shadows, was my newest palette, and that is the Glamlight Lord of the Rings palette. And I used a whole row out of this palette. I did a Get Ready With Me. If you want to see that, I will link it, where I used this whole row, and then I used this as an inner corner. But this month, or in July, I already also used this row, and I got a very pretty warm toned gold look. Loved it. So there's that. 4 new shadows used out of this palette, and I love it. So there's that. Again, I'm not going to be rolling in palettes that I want to focus on. I just have some palettes in my rotation, and I see what I use and I see what I want to use, and there's that. I'm not forcing myself to use anything. The one palette that I think is going to be the hardest to complete, like, I don't per se want to complete it, but the one that still has the most shadows unused is my ColourPop singles. They are just in a palette and I never really think of them. I find that with my singles, so I have Glam Shop singles, I have ColourPop singles, I have 𝓮𝓂𝓮𝓮 singles, I have some Beauty Bay singles. I just find that I don't use them. I just forget they exist because they're all in random palettes, and I have a lot of colors, but I don't know, if they're not in a pre-made palette, I just don't use them. Although my ColourPop shadows, when they were in their pre-made palettes, I also didn't really use them. So that's not, that conclusion was stupid. Didn't make any sense. I just don't use my ColourPop shadows, I guess. The only singles that are getting used are the Micka Beauty Shop ones, because I just cannot forget that I have those because they're stunning. They're just beautiful. Okay, I don't know where I was going with this whole ramble about my singles. Anyway, this was my video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will hopefully see you in one of my next videos. I'm gonna go change and go to the stables to meet our vet. Nothing big is going on. Just getting some blood work done for my horse, and then whatever. I will hopefully see you in one of my next videos. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.